Welcome to Navigating the Reliance Matrix, a podcast breaking down the walls of products, benefits, and the people of the enterprise.
Hi everybody, I'm David Gittelman. I am here with Patrick Trinsey, Chief Marketing Officer of Reliance Matrix, and my boss, by the way. We're here to talk about what's going on with Reliance Matrix in the market. Patrick, welcome.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it.
So you crossed the 5-year threshold pretty recently. I remember those days. What can you tell me about today's Reliance Matrix versus what you walked through the doors into back then?
Yeah, I mean, when I think about the 5 years ago, which would have been what, in 2018, 2019, it was a very different organization. In fact, it was two organizations, right? It was Reliance Standard, an insurance company, Matrix Absence Management, the TPA. And it was, it was two organizations that I think had very different perspectives on the market and the value that we were providing. So when I think about walking in the door 5 years ago, I saw this great potential in the organizations. If only we could figure out a way to better align them and make them work together. And I'd say between Reliance Standard and Matrix Absence Management, you had two great companies that if you pulled them together as one and everyone was marching to the same beat of the drum, we would have something spectacular. And I think over the last 5 years, everything we've done as an organization was really about bringing those two organizations together, right? So you and I got to rebrand those organizations as one January of last year. To me, that was the icing on the cake. Well, think of it this way, right? So one thing I noticed that, right, you had two separate organizations that were going really down two different paths. But the one thing that was very similar that I found was going to be very helpful is the cultures. The culture and the people were very, very similar. So we knew it would be a strategy to bring organizations together that would work, right? Because while they were operating as separate companies, within the walls, they were really working as one. And so it wasn't while it was challenging, it wasn't particularly challenging to bring them together, right? So
There were pockets of integration when you got here, right? That sort of indicated, that could really work.
Right. Well, so the one thing I think, thinking back to those 5 years, is you had a great insurance carrier in Reliance Standard, but you also had this great asset in Matrix. And if you could align those two organizations together, it could really take off. And I think what was happening at the time, right, the last 5 years also included a pandemic, right? And so the market changed rapidly, which meant the demand for absence management services and compliance services from Matrix became that much more important. And so I think we were a little lucky in bringing them together at the time we did, because we had a solution for the market that really grew in demand exponentially. You had not only COVID-related leave laws, but the proliferation of state-paid family medical leave plans that are all different, that are it requires insurance, right? Matrix wouldn't be able to. They could administer it, but without the insurance asset, we would never have been successful. So I think bringing them together when we did is one of the reasons I think we've grown to be so successful in the market.
There was a point in time when sort of Reliance Standard and Matrix together was really a solution only for very large employers.
That's right.
And that's no longer the case, right?
I was probably one of the first things we wanted to do, right? When I talked about the two organizations going down different paths, you're right. It kind of goes to the business models. A third-party administrator is based on fees, right? And so you're looking at, in order to achieve scale, the bigger the better. Whereas an insurance carrier looks at the spread of risk. So the more employers versus employees, the better. And so it was trying to find that right balance that would allow us to grow together and serve both of those needs. And so you're right, one of the first things we did after sort of an internal business review was look at some of how we were distributing the product, and can we scale this business and offer it to more employers that are smaller of size, while at the same time getting more comfortable with the risks that come with writing larger cases. And so that turned out to be a great first step, right? Because that got more of the organization involved, and that's what started the growth acceleration of our organization. We continued to invest in the capabilities that we felt were required for us to be successful, both in the very large case as well as down market. And then we built other capabilities around the absence management asset, that's Matrix, to enhance customer experience that we knew the larger employers would value, but also the smaller employers as well.
Like what? Give me a for instance.
I think Absence Radar is a tool which is now patented, but it's really a tool, a very valuable tool to employers. Essentially, if I'm an employer, I want to know, I want to be able to, if I'm a hospital, I need to be able to project staffing. Where are my employees? How many employees do I have on the floor? And how many employees am I going to have coming in tomorrow, next week, next month? What Radar allows us to do is take all of that absence data and put it in a not only comprehensive but easy to use tool, so that employers can look across their entire organization, past history and future, and project for staffing. So it's really a workforce management tool that didn't exist in the market. The beauty of it now is when we partner with other HR platforms like Workday, we can actually take all absence data, including, right, because today we only have the absence data for products that we manage, right? So FMLA and et cetera. But now we could take things like PTO and bereavement and really pull it all into the tool, so it gives that true picture of absence. So when you're really, as a workforce management tool, when you're trying to project out your staffing needs, now you're getting the most comprehensive look that you can possibly get.
How important is our ability to sync up with other platforms like Workday going forward? How important is that to our...
It's table stakes at this point, right? So employers today of all sizes have made this incredibly large investment in HR technology, right? And HR technology could be anything from benefits administration, which affects our business, but also payroll, timekeeping, learning management systems, and the list goes on. And so what we have found is those pieces of technology, those platforms, were designed to help employers, but they weren't necessarily designed for the complexity of what we do in either the insurance or absence world. And so, you have these employers that make this big investment, they're expecting efficiencies, they want to see return on that investment, and they're finding that it has actually made things worse for them. It has required more staffing, more people to manage, more headache, more manual work than they ever thought they would have before with their old system. And so the reason it's been successful for us, and I believe will be a table stakes capability that you need in the future, is you have to make it as easy as possible to exchange data, right? And so, without getting too in the weeds, but essentially, we need data on our end to drive process direct from that system. And if you make that challenging or difficult for an employer, that's not reflected poorly on the technology, it's reflected poorly on us. So it's our responsibility to make it as easy as possible. And I feel as though we've developed a really good reputation in the market. Speaking of how things changed over the last 5 years, we have teams of technology resources that didn't exist 5 years ago. We made a big bet that solving the challenge of data integration between us and HR technology, for which there are many, was going to solve the problems and make want employers to do business with us.
I feel like our sort of core integration philosophy of using the platform as the system of record in the beginning was a game changer and is still sort of setting us apart. Is that right?
It is. It's a philosophy, right? We have taken a stance that we believe the data that is closest to the payroll system is the source of truth. There are others out there in the market that say, we would like US to send us all your data and we will decide if it's correct or not. And when it's not correct, we're going to come back to you and expect you to make changes to your source system so it matches ours. And so it's an extra couple steps that there are still many out there in the industry today that require it. We just know, based on our own experience, that two things. One, the data that the employer has is usually the most accurate because it affects payroll, right? And so if it's wrong in the payroll system, somebody's not getting paid and you're going to find out pretty quickly, versus having them send us data and track it for insurance billing purposes isn't necessarily always going to be the accurate. The second piece is, it gets back to the big investment that our clients have made in HR tech, which is, I invested money in the system. This is a system I want to use. I do not want to go duplicate efforts in your system to satisfy your needs. I'm your customer, right? And I shouldn't have to do the work for you. And so that's really the approach we've taken over the last 5 years, which I think in large and small has been really helpful for our clients once they understand it, especially compared to who they did business with previously.
So back in 2020, COVID happens, changes everybody's business model, sends everybody home for varying lengths of time, muddies the water as far as disability insurance goes, but to your point earlier, turns the heat up on all kinds of leaves, including federally mandated COVID relief. We're sitting on arguably the best, or certainly one of the best platforms, administrators of that kind of leave, and we did well, right? Yeah. Coming back to work in a hybrid model, the proliferation of paid family leave plans at primarily the state level. Mm-hmm. Again, we have an infrastructure that supports that. And then last year, 2023, we had, I think, our best sales year ever.
Yeah, for the second year in a row.
So,
we broke the record last year, and then we broke it again this year.
I mean, first of all, congratulations.
It's great. I mean, we have a really good team. It's an acknowledgement of getting back to that original statement around the people and the culture being very similar. I think we all saw the opportunity. We saw what was happening in the market. And we saw the opportunity in front of us. And yeah, it's great for the sales and account management team. It's great recognition for our claims organization, right? We've just announced that we're ranked #1 in absence management, which is something that I think everyone is really proud of at all levels of the organization, but especially for our enterprise claim operation that's been working so hard to manage a customer experience that has grown exponentially over the last 5 years.
That couldn't have, in the old model, the sort of bifurcated model where Reliance Standard and Matrix were separate, correct or incorrect, we could not have ascended into that top spot.
For sure. And, I think there's, I'll put it this way. There's some financial implications to growing into that top spot without the employee benefits that follow. But no, I think, again, we have a really strong leadership team that recognized the growth was coming and took action to make sure we could manage the growth. So it's tough to predict to say that we wouldn't be able to do it, but I think as a result of all the changes we've made over the last 5 years, we were certainly put in a better position to handle that growth.
If you had to pick one thing that was the biggest driver of our success over the last 12 months, what would you credit with?
Over the last 12 months?
Yeah.
I think there's a couple. I could point to like a dozen things. I felt like this past year was a year that the entire organization gravitated toward one goal and one purpose. I would love, as the head of marketing, to say it was all because we rebranded, but I think it's so much more than that. So I would take it back to the organization, right? The sales team, the account management team, the claims operations, the underwriting team, the actuarial team. We were all marching in the same direction, and it just so happens that this year we accelerated well beyond, I think, anyone's expectations. Beyond that, I think there were a couple of really good things that we did as an organization that helped tremendously. One, we keep investing in innovating in absence management, which I think has given us a stellar reputation in the market. We continue to do that. I think we're spending more now investing in our absence than we ever have. So another record year of spending in addition to the growth. The other, I would say, aside from absence, is on our technology. And when I say technology, I'm talking about our ability to drive great process and customer experience within the client's HR technology experience, right? And so we've made it very easy or easier for our clients to do business with us, but also created the efficiencies that they wanted all along when they made that original investment. And I think it's not that the market woke up and realized that we were so great at integrating HR technology. I think it's been a culmination of us staking our reputation on being that leader and continue to tell our story in the market so that we earn that reputation and the growth that followed.
So last question.
Sure.
Beyond a hat trick sales year, what are you most excited about the prospect of in 2024?
2024, it's a big roadmap, right? I'm going to stick on the 5-year theme. The thing I love most is being out in the market, right? So I fly around this country almost every week. That's why we talk on the phone so much.
That's right.
And I feel like our organization has earned a reputation in the areas we've been focused on for the last 5 years. And quite frankly, it's fun to tell that story to anyone who will listen. Whether it's our clients, our broker, consultant partners, but even to our own teams who are continually learning about our organization that's in a constant state of change, right? And so one thing I've learned over the last 5 years being here is that it's always changing. So the only constant is change. And every year, it's something different. So this time last year in February, I couldn't predict the number of things that we were going to do, deliver, and add value in the marketplace by December. But man, was it fun to deliver those things. Just you and I spent last December trying to plan out 24, which was a lot of fun. But at the same time, we know half of the things on there probably won't get delivered, and another 50 to 60% doesn't exist on paper yet and will be added throughout the year. So that's happened every year I've been here.
It's definitely more like air traffic control than it is like a bingo scorecard.
Yeah, it certainly keeps us on our toes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, I'm excited to kick off another year. It's been a great ride. It continues to be a great ride. Thank you for talking with us today.
Appreciate it, David. Always. Great job.
Thank you.